All right, so I think it's safe to say that, the Giants are probably gonna be ranked 32nd with their offensive line because did you see they couldn't even protect Daniel Jones? He was apparently at the bottom of a pile after a
Yeah,
huge brawl at their practice. And this is ridiculous. How does your quarterback, your starting supposedly future quarterback, end up at the bottom of a pile in a huge brawl at practice within your own team?
it's really what made it better was Joe Judge after was furious, got rid of all the
Hmm.
coaches, and he said, "No, run." And
Run,
then it
yeah.
was like apparently a sports movie. He was like, "Again, again,
Sounds like high school.
again."
Just run. You
Oh, then
mess
he threw
up,
him on the goal line.
baseline.
Yeah, threw him on the goal line. He had him do some
Hmm.
push-ups, and then I guess he had a big talk. And afterwards, Daniel Jones was like, "I didn't get hurt. I think we got the message." Like,
Oh
New
man.
York's gonna New York, man. You gotta love it.
Hmm.
Welcome to Our Factual Opinion, the sports podcast where your co-hosts Zachary Nicolai and Tyler McGee give our factual opinion on all things sports. Tyler, dude, it's been crazy. Everything from football going on, training camp starting. We just mentioned the Giants. Injuries
Yep.
already piling up. NBA free agency. We're gonna go over all of it today.
Yeah, got a lot going on. Really excited. Like you said, a lot of sports, Olympics, NBA free agency, football, baseball, everything's starting to heat up. This is a good time of the year for sports. But yeah, let's get right into it. So we have our first segment. Nick isn't always right. Today on First Things First, Zach, they talked about your guy, your favorite player of all time. No, it's not Luka Doncic. It is Carson Wentz. Basically, we all know Carson Wentz got injured, had surgery on his foot, out for roughly 12 weeks. So, Zach, they're discussing who should replace Carson Wentz. What are your thoughts on this?
So Carson Wentz isn't my favorite of all time. Let's address that. I think he's talented. I think he didn't get a fair shake in Philadelphia. And Philly, city of brotherly love, that's not always true when it comes to Wentz, but I
Hmm.
guess it's true with Nick Foles. The injury, what was weird to me is apparently it's a high school injury. Like that's
Yeah,
what's
it
getting
was really
reported.
weird. Just got ignored
Yeah.
his entire life or what? That was.
Yeah, I guess it's an athlete being an athlete. He had no issue just running around with it. It was really weird. And so finally it gave out. And I
Mhm.
think surgery was the right idea here. I think he was like, hey, I have a great offensive line. We are in a horrible division. We can still win this thing being 9-8. And then all of a sudden, today Quentin Nelson went and got hurt. Basically the same injury as Carson Wentz. He's going to
Yep.
be out for 12 weeks. And it's like, dude, I don't get it. I heard some people talking, and this very much frustrated me. Who should replace Carson Wentz, Tyler? Nick
Philip
Foles.
Rivers.
Foles. That's what everyone's saying. They're saying bring Nick Foles back, do this. I like
There
Philip
was
Rivers
talk
better,
on
but
both Philip Rivers bringing him out of retirement and Nick Foles, but what's funny, not funny, you kind of got to feel bad is Nick Foles replaced him on the Eagles, and now he could possibly replace him again with the Colts. It's like, man,
it's
poor
awful.
guy.
Yeah, it's awful. And you look at it, and I heard some people kind of comparing it to the Dolphins back when Ryan Tannehill, when he was apparently a receiver playing a quarterback, and everyone hated
Hmm.
him, and then he went down. Do you remember the Dolphins went and dragged Jay Cutler out of the booth?
Hmm.
So people are like, well, you did it with Jay Cutler. Why can't you do it with Philip Rivers? And to me, it's like, you can't go get Philip Rivers. I don't even care about him coaching high school. I think it's more the fact that Carson Wentz isn't out for the season. He's out
Yeah.
anywhere from 5 to 12 weeks. So you're telling me that he's going to miss a month, but really, if that's starting now because he just got surgery, he'll be back by maybe week 2, week 3. And then if it's 12 weeks, we'll say that it's week 8, week 9. Like in that division, that's good enough for him to come and make a run for the playoffs still. But I don't see them getting Philip Rivers. And if you're the Colts and you truly wholeheartedly believe in Carson Wentz, you can't get Nick Foles. You cannot go out there and say this one year is more important than everything else because next year we've seen it. Nick Foles isn't going to do anything for you. So if you truly believe in Carson Wentz, you got to go with him. If you don't care about any of them, I mean, you just got to let Easton play the backup and just see
Hmm.
like, hey, if you can ball, great. If you can't, it's going to be back like 2012, basically tank. They'll
Yeah.
get a top 5 pick, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't think you go out and just find his replacement already. 12 weeks, we're still a month out from a little more than a month out actually from kickoff, which is on September 9th. But yeah, I agree. I don't think you should just go out, find his replacement, and basically call it a year. You know what I mean? You traded for Carson Wentz, knowing you have a team that you could have built around him, that you can protect him with this line, and have a pretty good offense to give to him as a season where he's going to come back. And I just don't think you want to go out and replace him already. Given I know he's been pretty injury prone throughout his entire career, so that's something to kind of look out for as they kind of move on and
He's
hope
had
Carson
one
Wentz.
healthy season.
Yeah, exactly. And
Uh,
even the Super Bowl season, he got injured right before the
Week
playoffs
14
started,
against the
and then
Rams.
yep,
Yeah.
that's when Nick Foles basically ran it for them. Crazy. I still can't believe he beat Tom Brady, but yeah, I don't think you go out and find his replacement already.
And I've also been hearing talks about Jimmy Garoppolo. To me, that's just a less athletic version of Carson Wentz. Like, basically, you're getting a guy who can win games. I don't want to hear any slander on Carson Wentz. Like, the dude can ball, the dude can win games. It's just he can't stay healthy. So you want
Yeah.
to do the same thing with Jimmy Garoppolo? I don't get it. And I feel so bad because they have a great GM, a great coach, a great team.
Hmm.
They just can't find a guy to throw the ball. And it's like, that's how important that position is. You can be A minuses, B pluses everywhere on the field. If you don't have somebody at quarterback, you're not going to win in this league.
Yeah, I mean, I feel bad too because I've honestly been rooting for Carson Wentz comeback. You and I are both talking about how we think they could be a top 10 team in the league with a healthy QB. Just the team is really well built and well-rounded team, like you said, from the coaching staff to the GM all the way down, to the team. It's just you look forward to seeing this Carson Wentz comeback. You always hear, I feel like the last 2 years it's just been like this could be Carson Wentz's year. This could be his bounce back year. And it's just injury after injury. You got to start to wonder like is this just the constant trend? Are we never going to see a healthy Carson Wentz throughout a whole season again? Or I don't know. Because I mean, I'm rooting for the guy. It's tough to see him keep getting injured like this.
You hope that's not the case. Going
Hmm.
on, it's still the same network, Tyler. I want to go on to our
Yep.
segment, Disputable. Our man, Skip and Shannon, they have been on vacation, I think, for about a week now.
Yeah.
Missing Skip and Shannon, talk about LeBron in any way they can, whether it be movies or football. Somehow he's always brought in there.
Hmm.
This is non-LeBron related, though, on Undisputable on FS1. Jason McIntyre, he went on to say that after all this free agency stuff, the Heat are the second best team in the East. Tyler McGee, what do you think?
I think it's kind of crazy. They got a lot better. I'll give them that. But I think it's crazy how, just a week ago we were talking about how Giannis could be the best player in the world. He could be better than KD. He could be the number one dude. And they kind of went on to talk about just saying like, oh, they got a lot better defensively. Kyle Lowry is an all defensive guard. You took away PJ Tucker, which they did. Taking away PJ Tucker, the toughness of him is going to be it's kind of tough for the Bucks. And then they go on to talk about Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo are great defensive players, but what they just already forget about Drew Holiday, who's definitely a way better defender than Kyle Lowry is, and then forget about possibly the best defender in the league in Giannis Antetokounmpo. Like I don't understand how you can talk about how their defense got a lot better when the Bucks are one of the best defensive teams in the league with just Drew Holiday and Giannis alone. But I will say they got a lot better. Bucks didn't necessarily change. They re-signed Bobby Portis, and I forget they had another signing that I can't think of off the top of my head right now. But they're still kind of the same. They're still pretty much the same team. Obviously, Giannis. They were just talking about him being the best player in the world, and now all of a sudden you want to put the Heat above them. I think that's not a little crazy because I do agree that he got a lot better, but I can see them competing, and I can't just say all of a sudden they're undisputed, the second best team in the East. And I think it's kind of funny how we're arguing over who the second best team in the East is because we know how the Nets are, if they stay healthy, gonna run that whole conference.
It's so weird because you never see teams that win championships go to third right away.
Yeah.
Like, it should be either, oh, the Bucks are the best team in the East, Nets, they're close, or vice versa. All of
Hmm.
a sudden, it's like, no, no, no. This team that we loved in the bubble with all these young kids, yeah, they couldn't perform last year. But you know
Hmm.
what's really going to fix it? Kyle Lowry,
Kyle
because he
Lowry
went and
and
won a
PJ Tucker.
championship. But that was really because of, Kawhi and the Warriors having like half their team that year. But
Hmm.
it's ridiculous, Ty. Like you said, you look at it. I don't think Giannis is the best player in the world, but how
No,
are
I don't think so
people
either.
banging the drum, hitting the table, saying, "This is the guy, this is the face of the league"? Oh, just kidding. He's the third best in the East. So if that's the third best in the East, so what are you saying he's in the West?
That's
Like,
pretty low in the West, you would think.
yeah, you just look at it and it's like, I don't buy it. And you look at the Heat, it's what have they done in a somewhat normal season? Like, I truly think the only reason the Heat got that far is because it was an empty stadium. And when
Hmm.
you're in your 20s, young 20s in the league, like they had for most of that team, that's how they practice. That's how they play. Like, they are so used to just balling with their guys. They kind of just talk trash back and forth. That's what the finals was. I don't see it as a Mickey Mouse championship, but I do think that them being comfortable in that area played a big factor into it. So no, I don't see the Heat as second. I might not even see them as third.
Really?
Yeah, I'd
76ers?
have to I'd have to really look at it because they went and signed Andre Drummond, as you know. I don't know how that's going to work out. I mean, you get upset with Simmons and his free throw shooting. I mean,
And then you got Andre Drummond, who's almost just as bad, shooting like 50 some percent from the free throw.
he's below 50. He's 47.
Damn. Yeah. So
47%. I have a better chance of getting heads when I'm flipping a coin than I do him making a free throw. So I it's going to be interesting seeing him and Embiid together. I mean, because
Mhm.
Drummond will attack the rim at least. Simmons, we'll wait and see where he goes because if that stays in the East,
Yeah.
that could be
I mean,
interesting too.
yeah, it's hard to say that right now too because 76ers still got moves to make. They were trying to shop Tobias Harris. They're trying to get a James Harden-esque trade with Ben Simmons, which is kind of ironic because they could have gotten James Harden with Ben Simmons, but still, it's not like the 76ers are done making moves. You know they're going to try and deal at least one of them this offseason. And you can't forget about Joel Embiid. The guy was MVP of the season before he got injured. Now, granted, Jokic, I think, had an amazing season and deserved that MVP, but if Joel Embiid stayed healthy, he was probably the MVP of the league. So it's hard to just kind of
Forget
ignore him.
MVP. Forget MVP. It's they were talking. Remember when Giannis and Embiid were healthy? They were like, Embiid is the closest thing to Shaq, and then all of a
Yeah,
sudden Embiid's
yeah.
out of the limelight, and now it's like Giannis is the closest thing to Shaq. It's like,
Well, they were even saying Embiid could be more dominant because he has the interior presence. He can take you to the rack, and then he can stretch the floor by shooting threes or getting his mid-range jumper going. So I just think it's kind of crazy. They just kind of, excluded and kind of threw out the 76ers like that when they're a pretty good team. I mean, Joel Embiid is a monster. They lost to the Hawks, which I still I don't think they should have lost that series. I can't believe the Hawks are the team that's going to send Ben Simmons somewhere else. But Ice Trey, whatever.
Atlanta will do that to you, dude.
Yeah, I like Ice Trey too. He was the villain. He embraced it and he really stepped up to the spotlight.
Because we're not from New York.
Yeah, true. If I were a Knicks fan, I'd absolutely hate him. It's just as much as I hate the Clippers. So keeping with our NBA topics, we've had a lot with free agency. We had a big story come out not too long ago, Zach, with revolving around Russell Westbrook and Kawhi Leonard. So apparently, don't know if these stories are true, but it's been reported that Russell Westbrook, back in I think it was 2019, reached out to Kawhi Leonard about possibly teaming up with the Clippers in LA. And it would have been cool, Russell Westbrook sounds like he's been trying to get this, LA home reunion going again. But after he reached out to Russell or to Kawhi Leonard then reached out to Paul George and basically said, "Hey, your boy is trying to get me to come trying to get me to come play with me in LA. I'm trying to leave you here in OKC. How about instead you leave him in OKC and team up with me in LA? And wow, it was honestly a huge story, and it was just like, damn, either Kawhi is a genius or a terrible person, or he's playing chess. I don't know. How do you view this, Zach?
Well, before we go on to that, some not so breaking news in basketball free agency. The Bulls are doing a sign and trade for DeMar DeRozan. That'll be
Oh,
interesting. We can talk about that later in the show.
okay.
But Kawhi and Westbrook, I mean, Westbrook wants to come back. For people that don't remember, he played college with Kevin Love at UCLA. So
Mhm,
he is a SoCal kid. He loves it down here, as most people do. And he wanted to come back home. So when you hit up a player who at the time was top five, some were arguing one of the best in the league or the best in the league,
mhm,
you reach out your hand, you reach out the olive branch, and you're saying, hey, man, I want to go home. I want my family to be home. That's where I want to finish my career. Like, I think you're great. I think our games would go together. Like, let's do it. And then you
mhm.
go, yeah, yeah, yeah. Turn around and you go, no, I'm going to go get the other guy that you're playing with because I think he's better. Like, it just, people talk about, you always hear LeBron and Chris Paul and the Players Association. They're always saying this is a brotherhood.
Mhm.
The basketball players are. Dude, that's cold-blooded, man. I don't get how
Very
you can.
cold-blooded.
Yeah, and also, I've never heard Kawhi take responsibility for anything in his entire career.
I mean, have you
Like,
heard Kawhi say more than 5 words in his entire career?
but the media, they go and attack, everybody else. Kawhi goes and wins a championship.
Mhm.
They go, oh, Kawhi, he's a great young player. LeBron's worried. Look at, the viral
Yeah, I
video
mean,
for
they
years of
people were
him at the
saying
free
Kawhi is
throw
probably
line.
the best in the world now.
Yeah, but you look and he does the whole LeBron's at the free throw line. He looks, he rolls his eyes because he sees Kawhi, and people are like, oh, LeBron's scared of him. You go years on later, and then all of a sudden he starts doing the whole thigh injury. I'm still not too sure what happened with the
Mhm,
Spurs. And, people are like, is he going to come back? Is this going to happen? Then people start, attacking Greg Popovich. And it's
mhm.
like, no, he's a player who didn't want to play. There's probably more to it, maybe about
Yeah.
Greg and that whole organization, but it's like he didn't want to play. We're out here, crushing Simone Biles in the Olympics for not going out there and playing. And we know what's going on with her.
Mhm,
Hawaii, we had no idea. We were just told it's a thigh. There were some people even saying it was just a super deep bruise and some tissue issues.
mhm.
Nothing. And then he goes, forces his way out. They do a horrible thing to the guy where they say, no, we're going to get you out of America. Forget the team. Like, we're going to go ship you to Canada. And then he goes and wins a
Uh,
championship, and people are just like, okay. And they loved him. I
mhm.
rarely hear people, if ever, say, oh, yeah, Kevin Durant was out and Thompson was out. Like, that wasn't a real championship.
Yeah.
You never hear that. But no, this year it's the Suns were the healthiest. Like, oh, they're not the real. Like, no, nobody said that. And it's like Kawhi gets every break. Why is nobody getting on this guy for just pulling a blind one on Russell Westbrook?
Yeah. I mean, I will say this. I mean, it's tough. I feel like it's a business is business, man. He felt like Paul George was the better player, and I guess he just wanted to team up with him, but like you should he should at least have a say, you know what I mean? Like I get it. I think it was pretty cold-blooded snake move to kind of just do that. But at the same time, if you don't want to play with a specific player, he's not obligated to play with him just because he reached out. But I agree. I feel like Kawhi, if LeBron did this, all hell would break loose in the NBA. This would be the dirtiest move. You could never compare him to Jordan, that type of thing. You know what I mean? If LeBron did this, that'd be terrible. If honestly any other, if imagine if we heard Kevin Durant doing something like this again. Oh man,
Oh,
that would be a bloodbath. Especially with what he already did with the Warriors, and I mean not the Warriors with OKC, and then going to the Warriors, and but yeah, I agree. I feel like he doesn't necessarily get the treatment that some of the star players do. Like Russell Westbrook has just been a slandered player almost his entire career just because he's a stat patter. He's not a winner, you know what I mean? Which he hasn't really won anything, but I feel like his greatness just kind of gets thrown under the bus and we kind of dismiss it. But I agree. I just feel like this is something that I feel like wasn't really talked about a lot just because I feel like a lot of it got overshadowed with free agency starting up. But man, I thought it was a crazy story, and I kind of agree that he needs, he doesn't get reprimanded for stuff like this because it's
Yeah.
Kawhi Leonard. I just think a lot of it also just has to do with him just completely staying away with the media, and I don't know.
And you look at it, who is Kawhi to Westbrook? Like, it frustrates me so much that you're like, no, no, I'm going to go with the other guy. What do you mean you're going to go with the other guy? You're going to go with the other guy who was also injured. And don't get me wrong, Paul George's injury was awful,
That was terrible.
but he
It was
came
it's
back,
amazing to see that he bounced back like that because that was a disgusting
it's a
injury.
miracle. Yeah.
Back what? That was actually when the most recent Olympics, right? Back 4 years ago or 5 years ago, technically
No,
now,
dude, don't
wasn't
quote
it?
me. I think it was like 2012.
Was it 2012? It was
Yeah,
he was
because it
with the
was still
Pacers at
when
the time.
those Pacers were beating the Heat or playing the Heat, and Paul George was like a
Okay.
LeBron stopper, and
Yeah,
Frank
that's right.
Vogel was the Pacers coach.
I
Those
think you're
fun
right.
days. Yeah, but you look at it and it's like you go and get that guy, and Russell Westbrook is everything that Kawhi isn't, except for, I'd argue mid range is great for Kawhi and clutch. But I mean, you look at Westbrook, he plays every game, and when he plays every game, he plays hard.
Hmm.
He didn't really get injured until the past couple of years. You know what I mean? He stayed with his team. We love Kobe Bryant. We love Tim Duncan. We love Dirk because they stay with their team. Kevin Durant goes and leaves. James Harden goes and leaves. No, there was nothing for Harden there. I think he really wanted to grow. So you can't fault him for that.
Yeah,
Durant,
I feel like he
obviously, you
needed to
can.
leave. But I
Yeah.
will say
But
this,
Westbrook stayed.
2014, 2015 was when he open fractured the tibia bone.
Yeah. That
Tibia
was
and
awful.
fibula. Yeah,
I still remember the video. It's
it
god
was
awful. But
disgusting.
you look at Westbrook though, and it's like stays with his team. He's loyal, plays hard, always has his teammates back. Like,
Hmm.
w- how is that not a guy that you want? Like, the media makes him seem
Yeah.
bad. He seems like a guy who gives his passion. He's a guy I'd want to play with.
Hmm. And even side note, honestly, like it seemed like players like so Chris Paul, it seemed like he got sent to OKC basically to end his career and die there. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It seemed like Russell Westbrook got sent to the Wizards, and that's where his career was going to die. You know what I mean? That it's cool to see these guys bounce back. But yeah, I agree.
yeah. Hats off, Westbrook. I hope you go to LA and win a championship because we know Kawhi is not, especially with Paul George. Oh man, Tyler, basketball is crazy. All that happened, but I know free agency. I just broke the news to you. The
Hmm.
Spurs and the Bulls making a trade. DeMar DeRozan. Give us a breakdown of NBA free agency. I was at work and I was coaching,
Of
and all this stuff was
course.
happening. I couldn't see what was going on. Catch me up.
All I know is I was sending you a lot of updates of NBA free agency, and I think that Chicago Bulls team is something that we should talk about in a little bit. But here we go. So first move right out of free agency broke. Lonzo Ball got 85 million over 4 years, and honestly, good for Lonzo Ball for getting that bag. I am really looking forward to LeVar Ball showing up to some press conference saying that Lonzo Ball is the best player to ever play for the Chicago Bulls. But yes, let's keep moving on. So we have a lot of signings here. So Mike Conley got a 3-year, 72.5 million dollar deal with the Utah Jazz, keeping that big three of Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, and Mike Conley together. Kyle Lowry signed a huge deal with that sign and trade deal with the Heat for 3 years, 90 million. Then we got players like Chris Paul, who got 4 years, which the wording was interesting. So he got 4 years, 120 million, but it said could be up to 120 million. So I don't know if that's maybe incentives, signing bonuses, or maybe even his last year not necessarily guaranteed. There's
They
still
probably said if
some to
you
come
win the
out.
chip, we'll give you an extra 30.
Dude, yeah, maybe. And then honestly, you got some interesting deals like Evan Fournier, who signed 4 years, 78 million with the Knicks. I like the Tim Hardaway deal. He just recently signed back with the Mavs, 4 years, 74 million. And then you got players like Trey Young, Jimmy Buckets, uh, Shea SGA with OKC, who just signed big contract extensions, which I'm really looking forward to seeing them keep playing. Although Jimmy Butler, that was a huge deal. I think it was 5 years, so we'll see how that pans out. And then also what I liked, which good for him. I don't know. We'll discuss what we think about it. Is Duncan Robinson got the biggest contract ever by an unsigned or an undrafted player, and it was 5 years for $90 million.
Good
So yeah,
for
we got a
him.
lot of we got a lot of big deals coming out. Norman Powell re-signed with the Blazers. Gary Trent re-signed with the Raptors. A sneaky sign that I kind of liked was for the Pelicans after they lost Lonzo Ball. They got Devonte Graham off a 40-year deal. So a lot
Steph
of
Curry.
wins. Steph Curry just signed a huge extension today. I saw that he's the first player ever to sign multiple $200 million contracts, which well deserved. Guy's the best shooter we've ever seen in our entire lives. Best shooter the NBA has ever seen. I love Steph Curry, man. I love him. He's a great player,
Changed
great
the
dude
league.
overall.
Yeah.
Changed the league forever. And then obviously we got the Russell Westbrook trade to the Lakers. Lakers signed a few players. I've seen a few tweets about them being a retirement home, which honestly I find really funny. But they signed Malik Monk today, as of what's today, Tuesday. They signed Malik Monk. They got Carmelo Anthony, and then they signed a lot of reunion with Trevor Ariza, Wayne Ellington, Kent Bazemore,
Dwight.
Dwight Howard, which I think was a great sign for them. But lot of big deals, Zach. So I think what we can do, this could be like our debate topic. We'll discuss what we think. Were these deals good deals for the teams or bad deals? Were they overpaid, maybe underpaid, and maybe just who got the best during this free agency? So down the line, we'll hit kind of like the main guys. We don't want to make this too long. We don't want to probably cover everyone, but Lonzo Ball, 85 million over 4 years with the Bulls. What do you think about that deal?
The Bulls as a whole, I'm so happy to finally see. I feel like not since Derrick Rose
Hmm.
plus Jimmy Butler days that they've actually been trying to go out there and win.
Yes.
Lonzo, I like. Don't forget who joined Lonzo in Chicago. Our man Alex Caruso.
Alex
Hats off.
Caruso,
Gonna miss you.
I am
I
really gonna
know.
miss you.
Yeah. Oh man, the Caruso join in Chicago.
Hmm.
It's going to be fun out there. I don't think they're going to
Yeah.
be title contenders, obviously, but I
No.
could see them sneaking in at like 6 or 7. They'll be a fun team. Lonzo's contract,
The
four
lobs
years,
thrown up to
85
Zach
mil. I
Levine
like
is
it.
gonna be a lot of fun to watch.
Zach Levine's going to be great between them two.
Hmm.
I liked Lonzo and Zion. That's a guy I feel bad for on the Pelicans. Just
Yeah.
that franchise is ridiculous. But Lonzo,
Yeah.
his contract, I think is good,
Hmm.
especially because I think he fits with that team and that culture.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's definitely improved a lot over these past few seasons. A lot of pressure when he was joining the Lakers. You basically had Magic Johnson saying, "Leave some of those records for me. Your jersey's gonna be in the rafters." Poor guy, just LeVar Ball. The spotlight was on him. That was tough, but you see him bounce back really well with the Pelicans. Had his best 3-point shooting year. His form looks really good, and that Bulls team, man, they look like they're gonna be a lot of fun. They got Lonzo Ball now. They got DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, Vucevic. They're gonna be a good team to watch. And like you said, probably not title contender. Nah, not probably. They're not title contenders with teams like the 76ers, the Bucks, and the Nets, the Heat, all in that conference. But I think they're going to be a fun team to watch. And
They're going to be
no, I
relevant.
feel like, yeah, I feel like I'll find myself rooting for them because I like Zach LaVine. I'm a big Lonzo Ball, and obviously I love Alex Caruso. So I feel like I'm gonna find myself rooting for them a lot. All right, moving down the list. Back over now to the Western Conference. We got Michael Conley signing a 3 year, $72.5 million deal with the Utah Jazz. Zach, they were the number one number one seed in the West this season with their big three of Rudy Gobert, Donovan Mitchell, Michael Conley, and then they also have players, like Joe Ingles and Jordan Clarkson that fill out their roster pretty well. What do you think of this signing, and what do you think about the Utah Jazz?
I like the years. I think the years are good. I like
Mhm.
they're keeping the core together. I think the Jazz are one of those teams where I don't want to compare them to the Bucks, but they kind of remind me of the Bucks the past couple of years where they're always solid. They're knocking
Mhm.
on the door and then they're just not able to burst open. Will the Jazz be able to get through that door? I don't know. But I don't like the money. Yeah, I think if
Mhm.
they could have shaved off about 12 and a half mil, make it 20 years, 20
20
million a
years.
year,
Wow.
20 mil a year, I think that would have been better. And then
Mhm.
that other 12 mil, you would have been able to spread that around. Well, it'd be about 4 years 4 mil that you save a year. So I think that would have made things better, especially maybe getting
Mhm.
one or two more veterans to fill out a bench. But the years are good, money a little too much for me. But no, I like the idea and I like that culture.
I will say this, I forgot to mention the Utah Jazz also signed Rudy Gay to a 2 year. I think it was like a $12.5 million deal, which is good, like you said, veteran presence. But I will also have to say this, I feel like it's hard to kind of judge these deals because you will say Mike Conley probably got overpaid, which he probably did. But at the same time, you're talking about a small market team that, is probably going to struggle to get other players to come play in Utah. So I could say it's not necessarily a bad deal. Like you said, we're keeping their three core people together. They kind of struggled towards the because in that playoff series, you lost Michael Conley for a little bit who got injured, and you also
Yeah.
lost Donovan Mitchell. So they kind of suffered some struggles at the end, but I do agree. I think I like seeing them sticking all three of them together, and who knows, maybe running back again this season. Maybe they'll be. I don't know if I can necessarily picture them being a number one seed again. I feel like injuries played a big role in them getting that number one seed, but like it is, like we say, it's just you stay healthy, you're obviously going to be up there. But
I could see
yeah.
top 3 or 4, but I also do wanna say this, I never believe a player could be paid too much. I think that if they're willing to pay you, take it.
Mhm.
Just from a standpoint of money, the way I think is so, like, for the Lakers, I think Westbrook's making too much. I think LeBron, with everything else he has going on, is making too much. So it's like, if you can take that, you can make a better team. I'm not gonna fault them for taking the money, though. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, I'm not gonna be
I'll
upset
never
for
fault the player
LeBron.
for getting their bag.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm never gonna be mad at them taking 40 million a year because it's like,
Hmm.
if you can get it, get it. You
Yeah,
know
I
what I
mean,
mean?
like they
But
say,
if
like
yeah,
the NBA is a business. You could get traded easily one day, and you're just like, wow, I can't believe they did that. You know what I mean? If you're a player, take your money. That's why I never
correct.
fault NFL players for taking all that because a lot of their contracts aren't even guaranteed. Luckily, the NBA contracts are guaranteed for them, so never fault the player for taking their money.
Yeah. So, no, I
All
am
right.
happy he got his money, just wish it was less, that way they could maybe get one more guy.
Mhm. All right, so we're gonna keep bouncing back. Now back to the East. We got a team that we talked about already today with the Miami Heat signing Kyle Lowry, 3 years, 90 million, and then also picking up PJ Tucker and extending Jimmy Buckets and Duncan Robinson. What do you think about the moves they made this offseason?
Jimmy got a lot of money.
He did. He got a lot of money, which
Jimmy got a lot of money. It was like 4 years, 184 mil. He got a lot of money.
mhm,
Same thing now, I'm not gonna fault him for taking the money, it's just he had so many young guys around him, and he finally got a veteran with him in, Kyle Lowry. You shave off a couple mil, you're able to get one more vet. You're able to bring one more guy. And what's great about the Heat is you're in a city people want to be in. You know, you're
yeah,
not in Milwaukee where you have to
everyone
convince
loves
somebody to
Miami.
go. Yeah, you don't have to convince somebody to go to Florida. You have to convince somebody to go to
Mhm.
Wisconsin.
Yeah.
You know, Arizona sometimes. Like those are places you got to really recruit.
Mhm.
Miami, you go, hey man, look, we don't have as much taxes as California,
They don't got like
you
any
know?
tax.
Yeah,
California's got a lot of tax.
our weather's better sometimes.
Mhm.
Like, you might have to risk a hurricane or a tsunami, but dude, people love Miami. So it's like if he saved a couple mil, I could see them going out there and getting one vet. But no, the years is always what I look at. So,
Mhm.
I'll sneak peek. I don't like the Chris Paul deal because it's 4 years.
Mhm.
But, I think the years for Lowry, I think the years for Butler, I think those are good.
Yeah, I agree. The years for Lowry are good. 3 years. He's 35 right now. Seems like he still has a good amount left in the tank, but we'll see. I think the Heat are definitely the team that a lot of people can say got the best throughout this free agency. And not only that, like you said earlier while weren't filming, got better because they took players away from other teams, like taking the toughness and really defensive gritty player of PJ Tucker away from the Bucks, and then as well as taking Kyle Lowry away from the Raptors, who, let's be real, the Raptors weren't necessarily a threat to the Heat in general last season and probably weren't going to be this season. So I think just taking that away and then just kind of No, I saw 76ers possibly trying to get Kyle Lowry. You saw the
Mhm.
Lakers maybe thinking about Lowry before that Russell Westbrook deal, but yeah, you could say that they probably got the best out of this offseason than most teams.
Yeah.
All right, let's go back again now to the West, where you kind of touched upon for a quick second. The Chris Paul 4 year could be worth up to $120 million. What do you think about the Suns running it back again with Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, Chris Paul? I think they re-signed Campaign with a 2 year, $19 million deal. So, what are your thoughts on this, Zach?
I like that they're bringing people back. I just
Hmm.
don't like that Chris Paul's there for 4 years.
Yeah, I
I
mean
would have
he'll be
done
what,
1 or 2.
41, I think, by that time.
Yeah, I would have done a 1 or 2-year deal. 1 year, I don't think he would have signed. 2-year, I think they both kind of would have benefited.
Hmm.
3-year, that would have been kind of the one where if I'm the Suns, I'm like, look, dude, like they'd really have to twist my arm to do 3-year. If they said 4-year, I would have said no right away. But
Hmm.
Chris Paul, I takes you to your first finals, and I'm not even going to do math right now since '93. So it's like you kind of feel like you owe it to him. I don't like it. I wish it was 2 years.
Yeah. I will say this. I don't know if I'm 100% correct. I don't think the full details of the contract are out yet, but I agree. I think a 4 year deal is a lot for a player that they said was, a leader. We saw him play really well in the finals, and then we saw him play terribly in the finals. No knock on Chris Paul, really. Like, we know he's a great player. We don't know how many years he has left in him. We've obviously seen that these teams that he's gone to, like OKC, the Suns, they've gotten significantly better since he's gotten there. But it just makes you wonder, is 4 years, 120 million, is that a lot? But then again, at the same time, Phoenix hasn't been to the finals in whatever year you said. It's been a long time. And Chris Paul finally got to his first finals. So it makes you wonder, should they just run it back? They basically have the same team. They didn't really lose anyone, and they kind of just brought people back. So we'll see. It'll be interesting. A lot of the words, were just people were saying the Suns only made it to the finals because they were the healthiest team, which could be true, but at the same time, the Suns look pretty good. Devin Booker looked great. DeAndre Ayton was having amazing postseason, and we'll see. It'll be interesting. Moving back to the West, we got your favorite players team, the Mavericks. And we talked about Tim Hardaway Jr. a little bit. He signed a 4 year, $74 million contract with the Mavs. And I remember saying, I like Tim Hardaway as your third guy. He can get streaky, but he's a knockdown shooter. And he could be your consistent guy. Hopefully, he breaks through a little more with his streakiness. But what do you think about this 4 year, $74 million deal with the Mavericks?
The Mavericks are going to be the best team in the West in about 2 years. I want that to
Two
be
years?
known. Like right now, if it's not next year, it's going to be the year after that. Because Luka, after they win the Olympics, I hope people look at him and they go, "Yeah, you're the best player in the NBA." But back to the deal, young, so the years don't bother me. The money don't
Hmm.
bother me. I think he is the kind of guy that you can build around. I can see him going from a 3 to a possible 2 in situations. Now, he's not
Hmm.
obviously a 2 that you're gonna rely on the entire season, but I can see his games where he just kinda like a better Kyle Kuzma, where you can just see him randomly going off for, like, 25, and you're
A
like,
better Kyle Kuzma.
yeah, you're just like, "Where did that come from?" So I
Hmm.
can see him, dropping 20, 25. You mix that with Luka's 30 plus, like, that's a great combo, and then if they go and they do some type of trade to get rid of Porzingis, I hope somebody's listening to me. I don't care if they're upstairs or sideways. I need somebody to do something about Porzingis. Mavs, great deal though.
Yeah, I like the deal too. I saw a couple people saying he was overpaid, but you know, I think, like I said, he's a great third player option. He could be the two, like you said, in situations, but he's young. He's got a lot to learn still. I think he will become more knockdown shooter as his years progress. And I feel like he's a great player to have with Luca because Luca's someone who likes to, take it in. He can draw the double, dish it back out to Tim Hardaway, knock down 3 pointer. I like the deal.
I don't see how he's overpaid. $18 million a year, and you're a
Yeah,
shooter.
I mean,
Like,
yeah, I think so too. I think it was a pretty good deal. I liked it personally, and I'm a Tim Hardaway guy. But I'd like to move on. These are a few that I thought were interesting. Then I think you might also think are interesting.
Every
We'll
single
go
Laker deal.
to, yeah, we'll talk about that too. We will go to Evan Fournier signing a 4-year deal worth 78 million with the Knicks. Now the Knicks also did bring back Alec Burks. I think it was off of 3 years, $30 million deal. And then Mitchell Robinson, I believe, was another 3-year, about $32 million deal. So they brought back like core. Alec Burks was a core bench piece for that Knicks team. They still have Julius Randle. They re-signed Derrick Rose as well. What do you think about them using up the rest of their cap on Evan Fournier, who they stole,
So
I guess, from the Celtics?
true story. I went to a fast food establishment the other day in Southern
Mm-hmm.
California. And you know those trash cans that also have the little piece outside it? It's not really an ashtray, but people use it as ashtrays.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a parent who had her kid. The kid was about 2, 3 years old. Went and grabbed a cigarette
Mm-hmm.
in the ashtray. The mom freaked out, had him put it down. She goes and sits down to go grab hand sanitizer, puts him down. He runs into a bush with thorns. She then goes and grabs him, puts him back down, goes to grab tweezers, and he runs almost into the drive-through lane and almost gets hit. That's what I think the Knicks are. I think
Oh, I was
they're
wondering where the story was even going. I had no idea how this was tying into Evan Fournier.
you look at it and you go, okay, you know what? Things are going good. We're going to sit down. We're going to have our burger. We're going to do this. And then all of a sudden they go and they throw a bunch of money and a bunch of years at what shouldn't be worth 4 years and 80 million basically. And then you go, okay, maybe they're not gonna do that again, right? So you sit down and you start looking at the paperwork. Then they go and they run into the bush and they go sign another guy, and you're like, why are the Knicks doing this? Like, you should not be signing these guys to this amount of years and this amount of money. You should be looking to try and trade for a Damian Lillard. You should be looking to try and trade for a Kyle Lowry. Like, you should be trying to make this team. New York was in the playoffs this year, and it was the most
Mm-hmm.
electric thing.
Oh, Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
I loved hearing NBA playoff basketball back in Madison Square
Oh,
Garden. Them
it was
yelling
so
at Trey
great.
Young. It was fun. It was a lot of fun.
That's what we need in basketball. We need the Lakers being good, we need Florida being good, and we need New York being good. Maybe not Brooklyn,
I
because
mean, Brooklyn was
frankly,
using James Harden to try and get tickets sold in their arena for the playoffs.
right? It's like you need New York, you need the mecca of basketball to be good. And so why are they letting the toddler just run loose?
Hmm.
They should not be doing these signings. I'm not even going to call them average. I think they're bad.
I do think some of these deals can be moved if need be, but I thought the M Fournier deal was interesting. I mean, I guess there probably weren't free agents for them to sign, so they kind of made this deal. But like you said, it was I thought they would try and make more like moves this off season, but I don't know. I mean, you covered most of it, so we'll move on to a small market team now where Damian Lillard plays. Norman Powell signs a 5-year, $90 million deal with the Blazers. What do you think about this, Zach?
That'll keep Damian Lillard. That's exactly what he wanted. No,
I mean, it's tough because, like I said, they're a small market team. Players don't really want to go play in Portland. I don't know. I'll be honest. If Damian Lillard stays, kudos to him, man. That's some serious commitment. Him and Bradley Beal are in a fight over who's the most committed player to their team. Now, granted, Damian Lillard's team has actually been pretty good, where Bradley Beal's team has been pretty garbage these last few years. But yeah, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily a deal that keeps Damian Lillard, but at the same time, you're in a you're in a market where players don't usually like to go. So it's not necessarily a bad deal for the Blazers. I don't know how they could have improved. What the Blazers really need is a big guy, like a good big guy who can maybe stretch the floor and play with Damian Lillard. I just don't know if you necessarily have the pieces to do that without having to trade, CJ McCollum. I don't know what the Blazers do from here, to be honest. I if Damian Lillard stays, good for him, but I feel like honestly the Blazers maybe just need to move on and try and bank on a new future. I don't know. What do you think?
You know who I actually wanted them to get? Andre Drummond.
Really?
Yeah, I think there's so much about, oh, spread the floor. We need to do this. I think the Suns did a good job of showing us, like, if you have a guy who's playing the five, if you
Hmm.
have these designated positions, like, that's not bad.
Yeah.
It's okay to play basketball the way basketball was kind of created. So I think if you have, your point guard and Damian Lillard, obviously he's not the most pass first. He is a scoring guard. I have no issue with that. You have
Hmm.
McCollum, you get a five who is able to rebound. He's led the league in rebounding, the past 4 years. Like, you get him those second chance opportunities. I like them.
Yeah. Well, it's unfortunate they didn't get him. Instead, he's on a team with Joel Embiid now, who apparently, I've seen a lot of things resurfacing of Joel Embiid trolling Andre Drummond and now they're
Yes.
teammates. So it's like, this is going to be interesting. I'm sure they work things out, and I don't think people take things too personally in the NBA. I think a lot of people talk trash, and it is what it is. But yeah, man, I don't know what the Blazers do from here. I feel bad for Damian Lillard, but he wants to stay. So I mean, how bad can you feel for him if this is what he wants to do? So we'll see. But moving on, we'll talk about a few more here. I don't want to go super in depth because we're kind of getting along over here. I just want to ask what you thought about SGA's contract extension with OKC. Is he the guy that they want to build around? Is he a guy you would want to build around? They have a million first round picks up until about 2,200, so we'll see what they can do. One of them has to be a one of them has to be an MVP or Hall of Famer, right? So is SGA the guy you want to build around in OKC?
That's what's super interesting. Like you said, it's the roulette table.
Mm-hmm.
If I put $1 on half the board, I'm bound to hit one of them. So
Going
I
back to one
think,
of our going back to one of our episodes, Angels drafted how many pitchers? One of them has to hit,
20.
right?
Yep, that's the OG, very first episode. If you have not listened to that, please
Mm-hmm.
go and do.
Shameless
It
plug.
was a good one. Oh, shameless plug. I'm never shamed.
Mm-hmm.
No, the Thunder, they're fun to me because I don't think picks mean that much in the
Not in the
NBA.
NBA, yeah. I don't think so either.
No, if
Drafts
you're
aren't as deep
outside of,
compared to football
yeah,
or baseball.
for it's football, more than half the league's undrafted.
Oh
Forget
yeah.
the draft. You can literally
Whereas
just
the
say,
NBA
no.
is NBA is, 2 rounds. IT's probably the biggest player to ever come out as the last pick.
Yeah,
Small Isaiah Thomas, not Isaiah Thomas that Jordan had
the
beef with.
Pistons that Jordan hates. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But so you look at the Thunder though, and I really don't think a pick outside of the 10 is worth it. So I can see them taking a bunch of those things,
Hmm.
flipping them for some trades. Probably not this year. I think
Yeah.
if they can finish outside of the playoffs again this year,
Hmm.
watch the moves they make the next 2 years.
Yeah.
It's
I
gonna
think
be ridiculous.
they got a lot of trade capital. They got a young star in SGA. And honestly, they have draft picks, so they can trade a lot of draft picks, keep a lot for themselves. They have a lot to build around. It'll be interesting though, because I feel like every year they just keep wanting to trade for first round picks. At some point, you got to stop trading first round picks and just start making moves. Start building.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Because even there was even reports saying like they're not necessarily like opposed to the idea of trading SJ. Like it have to be like a godly deal apparently, but it's like why are you not opposed to this is most likely your guy. Keep him and build around him, or build a team that fits well with him with other stars. I don't know. I mean, obviously OKC is not the
Dude's a stud.
market to do it, but they have the trade capital to do it. So it's like at one point you got to stop trading for first rounders and get the ball rolling somewhere. But
Dude's a
I like
stud.
the
I
extension.
hope they build him.
Yeah, I like the extension too. All right, well, I think we covered a lot of NBA free agency, Zach. We've talked about, how we think the Heat are a good team, Lakers' possible retirement home. That's one team we didn't touch up on. Oh, we'll talk about that real quick. What do you think about the Lakers signings? Wayne Ellington, Malik Monk, Carmelo Anthony, Trevor Ariza, Dwight Howard, Kent Bazemore. A lot of reunions for the Lakers.
So those picks are good.
Mm-hmm.
because of the trade they did.
Mm-hmm.
So I am not too big of a fan of the Westbrook deal.
It
I
was
think,
an interesting move. Like a lot of it was, Lakers need a 3-point shooter. Let's go out and get Russell Westbrook. He's a 3-point shooter, right? No,
yeah,
he's not. It's just
it's
the star. They went out, stars make it work. Westbrook, mega star. It was just interesting fit for a ball dominant player to be playing with LeBron. You know what I mean?
yeah, it's to me, you look at it, LeBron was obviously in on the talk. Like,
Yeah,
there's
I
no
mean
way they
LeBron
do
and
this.
AD signed
Yeah,
off on it. There's no way that they
yeah,
do this without they had to sign off on it. So if they think they can make it work, that makes me confident. And honestly, I'm a big Westbrook fan. I feel bad. He's gotten so much hate and
yeah.
slander. I just feel like it's just a weird fit. But at the same time, it's like these guys think they can make it work. I got 100% faith in them because these guys, this is a huge mega. Like, can you imagine just the lobs from Westbrook to AD or lobs from LeBron to Westbrook or Westbrook to like it's gonna be crazy. It's just a matter of will the paint be too packed or will they be able to get shooters like Wayne Ellington to get the ball rolling? Wesley Matthews didn't have the best 3-point shooting season. Got a lot of hate. Will they bring back Danny Green? I've seen a few of those. I don't know how inclined Danny Green will be to come back after he got death threats during that postseason, but
Yeah.
I
No,
don't know.
it's see, and you're talking about it. What about the
Hmm.
lobs? What about the paint? It's not only did we kind of get worse at shooting,
Hmm.
we got older.
A
And
lot
like
older.
that's
Seriously
the
older. We
joke with the
lost.
retirement home.
Yeah, we lost KCP, who was arguably not arguably, he was our best 3-point shooter, young player. We lost Caruso, Kuzma.
We're probably going to
We
lose THT.
could lose THT. We gained Malik Monk, who's young, but I mean, it's like I saw like our roster is Carmelo Anthony's like 36, LeBron's 36. Marcus Gasol's I don't know how old he is. He's old.
Yeah, but AD is
Westbrook's
like
getting
the
up there.
oldest young player. Like,
Well, AD's yeah, the oldest young player basically, and it'll be interesting.
yeah. So the deals that we made are good for what we did with Westbrook. I
Mm-hmm.
personally would have loved to just do the Buddy Hield deal. You
Mm-hmm.
do that, we get a young guy who can shoot. We keep more young guys, and then also if you do a deal like that, we're not spending the money we're spending on
Yeah,
Westbrook, and
and
we can make, you know,
yeah, honestly, if they did do that Buddy Hield deal, it looked like we possibly could have been keeping Dennis Schroeder, which I know a lot of people don't like because of his playoff performance. But you got to remember that dude was coming off of COVID right before the playoffs. COVID
yeah,
protocols. He missed almost 2 weeks. It's hard to just bounce right back in. It would have been interesting. I'm not like someone who's gonna sit here and say, man, that Russell Westbrook deal was horrible. Like I love Westbrook. I think they'll make it work. It's just it's tough when you because regular season, this is going to work really well.
yeah,
Postseason, when they start to play, better defense, clog the paint, 3-point shooting really matters in that postseason. So we'll see. I mean, the Lakers weren't necessarily the best 3-point shooting team in the bubble when they won the championship. They were, I think, about like 35%. But we'll see. You got LeBron. If AD can stay healthy, and when I mean stay healthy, at least play like 60 games, it'll be interesting because healthy ADs could be top 5 player in the league.
yeah. The biggest thing I got out of this is that the Lakers are taking it year by year.
Yeah,
LeBron is like,
100%.
I can retire next year if I want to, but we're going to go out
Mm-hmm.
with a chip. So,
Yeah.
I mean, if you notice, we haven't had a consistent team and since he's been here. Like he
No,
right away when
our
he
most
got there was
consistent
talks.
player was Kuzma and Caruso.
Yeah, and
Those are
it's
players that we knew were probably staying for a bit, but even then, Kuzma was always in the trade talks.
LeBron's the longest tenured Laker now. He's been there for 3
Yeah,
years. Like
crazy.
that just tells you what this team is now. So
Hmm.
no, I hope they make it work. I hope that Davis can play center. I hope
Hmm.
LeBron goes back to power forward. Both those things are not going to stay true. I think they're going to try it and they're going to go, no. So,
Yeah.
we'll see how it goes. I'm excited for the Heat though. I am.
Yeah.
And
It'll be it's
the Mavs.
it's gonna be an interesting season. I mean, we still have to wait to see what Kawhi Leonard's gonna do. It's obviously reported that he's most likely going back to Clippers. We still haven't seen deals, with Kawhi, Reggie Jackson. Clippers probably got a lot of moves that they're gonna make. So we'll see. It's gonna be a fun season, I think.
Yeah.
And I've
Kawhi's
also
going to
forgot
stick with
to
Clippers.
mention the Nets signed Patty Mills today, which the Lakers were trying to get. So that's a big signing for them. That's a tough loss for the Lakers.
League's getting more competitive. That's all I want to say.
Yeah.
That's good. We're
Hmm.
not seeing so much dominance at the very top. Like, you can argue who's the top three in the East. You can argue who's the top three in the West, and it's not so far. I don't think it's as certain as people are making it sound that it's going to be Nets Lakers. Like, they
Mm.
did that last year, and people are going to say, "Oh, well, the injuries." Yeah, injuries are a part of the game.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, so we'll see. It'll be interesting. Looking forward to this. Got a lot more to talk about in the coming episodes. Football is coming up. Want to do a lot of fantasy football talk. We'll see if there's more injuries, what's more to come. A lot more to come for this.
You guys heard it here first. Stop following Woj on Twitter. Start following Tyler McGee. He will break all that news to you.
Yeah, I'll break the news. Once Woj gives it to me, I'll break it to you guys. Don't worry.
Perfect. Follow him on Twitter, Tyler_McGee3 for all your secondhand basketball news.
Exactly.
And that'll do it for today's episode of Our Factual Opinion. Before we end it, though, happy birthday to the GOAT, Tom Brady, 44 years old today. Gotta love it. Greatest quarterback, possibly the greatest athlete to ever live. And
that's a big debate.
We'll talk about it later. Funny enough, Jets quarterback Zach Wilson, happy 22nd birthday. Brady's twice your age, and he looks about the same age as you. So, and he's probably gonna win the Super Bowl again this year. The GOAT, Tom Brady, turns 44 August 3rd. Celebrate with some avocado ice cream. That'll do it for today's episode, Our Factual Opinion. Find us on Twitter and Instagram at Our Factual Opinion, and you can listen to us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, wherever you stream podcasts. From your co-hosts, Zachary Nikolai and Tyler McGee, we'll see you next time.
Good luck, Daniel Jones.